Hello and welcome to the dungeon. My name's Dan, and in today's video we've been playing a lot of Age of Wonders Planetfall. If you're unfamiliar with the Age of Wonders franchise, their past few titles have all been fantasy-based, turn-based strategy games. So you start off with a small settlement and you have your units and you're going around this hex-based grid and you're trying to conquer other territories and defeat your opponents. This is the same kind of thing, but in space. Now, first thing first, the copy of the game that I've played through has been the Xbox One version, and I might hear some of you say, why would you play a strategy game like this on a console? And the reason is because it is on a console, and some people don't have a PC and want to play a game like this and want to know how it works with a controller. And for that I say, okay, it's fine. It definitely takes some getting used to, but using the same button to cycle through your options, particularly when you only have 4 or 5, isn't too bad. Don't get me wrong, if you have a choice of playing this game on a PC or a console, definitely go for the PC. But with it being turn-based, the actual combat side of things won't make a damn bit of difference. Right then, so Age of Wonders Planetfall is very much your typical 4X game in terms of moving out, conquering more territory, using diplomacy, having arrangements with your opponents so you don't attack them and they don't attack you, taking on various neutral forces which are there just to hold on to other parts of the world, all with a really cool sci-fi sheen to it. Now I do like my sci-fi setting, whether it be Star Trek, Warhammer 40k, The Expanse, I love all that. But unfortunately, one of the things about using the sci-fi setting is that in 2019 and even many years beforehand, it's gotten very tropey and kinda samey. This game is no different. In fact, let's play a game of where have I heard this before? So the lore of Planetfall is that humanity was one big empire at one point, they spread out across the stars, they colonized planets, and then some kind of disaster happened and they became fragmented and isolated from each other. And over time they're starting to rebuild connections.
Enemy destroyed.
Yep, could be a lot of things. And for me, I first thought of the Battletech lore. For example, in Battletech, the old empire of yore is called the Star League, whilst in this one, it's called the Star Union. Yep, just like rugby. So another tropey aspect are all the different races that you can play. So you have various shades of humanity, such as the Vanguard, which are the poster boys. They're kind of frontiersmen but in space, so kind of rugged. They like their machines, but not too much. They also like beer and just being burly soldier people. Then you've got the Assembly, who are your cyborg Borg people. Very transhumanism, a lot of recycling body parts for various things. You've got the Paragons, who are kind of sci-fi aristocracy. So very high birth, using antiquated soldiers, but still powerful. You've got Space Dwarves, who are very defensive, like to put up barracks. You've got Space Bugs, who are Space Bugs, think your Zerg, think your Tyranids, you won't go too far wrong. And you've got Space Amazons too, who like to ride dinosaurs. They're quite cool. All of these races come with a different playstyles, strengths and weaknesses. So for the insect people, they're good at swarming together and give each other buffs, whilst the cybernetic faction will gain health when they do melee attacks against the enemy, like they're taking their bodies and turning them into fuel, that sort of grisly thing. So a lot of different variety and playstyles are involved in Planetfall, and I'll come back to this later in the review, but there is a ton of content to be found here. When you load it up, the first thing you want to decide is, do I want to do a narrative-based mission, or just land on a planet and find out for myself type dealy. Now I was quite impressed by the fact that for the narrative missions, first of all, A, there are a bunch of them, and B, they are continuous with each other. What I mean by that is, take the Vanguard for example, which is the main character that you see on the covers faction. He's a guy called Jack Gelder. He and his lieutenant come to a planet in the first mission, and there are some intriguing things going on said planet, and at the end of that scenario you can finish it and go off to another planet with all kinds of other intriguing things going on, including things like characters being killed or maybe not, who knows, and other family ties slash rivalries going on. I can't say I was expecting this level of storytelling in a broad sweeping strategy game like this, but I'll definitely take it. And if you don't want to play the Vanguard, then there are other ones to choose from too. So you will find something to match your playstyle. One thing though is that to get the story across there is a lot of reading. There is voice acting, but it's quite sparse. Most of the time when you're running through a campaign and you're interacting with new characters, it's all text. So I hope you like reading. And like in a lot of games like this, you have research. And once you've completed a certain research project, you get the thing you research and also a audio description of what you got. So those are all voiced. And it led to a bit of a weird situation where the guy who voices Jack Gelder also voiced one of his rivals in the first campaign too. So I wasn't quite sure who's talking. And in fact, are they the same person? I think particularly for the story, they should either have A, committed to complete voice acting, which I know will have taken more resources, more time and more people, or B, not bothered with any of it at all. This halfway in the middle approach, I think, is nice, but not necessary. And your main character will talk at the start of a campaign, like so.
Commander's personal record, Vanguard Expeditionary Forces. Cryosleep cycle completed. No casualties. Time since launch, 197 years. We're finally back. After a storm destroyed our hyperspace passage, we had to take the long way around. Most of us joined the Vanguard to escape our past. 2 centuries should be enough to give everybody a clean slate.
But generally you won't hear him again until it's over. But the real meat to Planetfall is in the gameplay, and like a lot of strategy games, this has 2 forms. First is your empire building and management as you try to expand across the planet, doing what you do best, which is normally bringing genocide to the natives, and actual turn-based battles, which is my personal favourite. Now for these you can manually skip and have the AI do the fighting for you, but where's the fun in that? Personally, I like to do one as much as possible because I like to have full control over my guys and see who gets to live and die. This is a hex-based, turn-based tactics game, so when you start there are 7 potential hexes that can be involved in a battle. Normally the defending hex is in the middle and everything around it is involved too. An army can occupy 1 hex and they have up to 6 units. If my mathematics are correct, that's 42 units, which, yes, can be very time consuming. But luckily with the enemy you do have the option to fast forward through their turns. So the turn-based combat isn't the deepest I've ever seen, but it does the job very well and has a few nice little features. You move your character from one hex to another, you do an action which normally ends that unit's activation, and then on to the next until everything's moved and then the opponent has their turn. There are 2 types of cover, which is half and full. If you have full cover then no one can draw a line of sight against you, and vice versa, unless you can see through rocks, which is a thing that can be done. Ready. Certain large units cannot benefit from cover, but on the other hand they can be cover for their smaller brethren. So moving a tank up towards the enemy with having some infantry unit behind it is a viable strategy. Then you've got aerial units which don't benefit from cover at all because they're flying and they can swoop around to flank the enemy, and flanks do give you bonuses against them, as well as the fact that it can occupy the same hex as an infantry unit because height is a thing. The only problem with this though is that once the area unit gets destroyed, it can crash and do damage to anything below it, so watch out for that. There's a whole range of different attacks and abilities you can do. You can do range, melee, various psychic stuff. You've got buffs, you've got debuffs, you've got one-use items. One thing I've noticed though when looking at these battles, maybe I've not found it yet, but there doesn't seem to be a log as to the dice rolls or what you try to do. This is turn-based, so you do have a chance to use an ability against the enemy, and you may either succeed or you'll fail. And it will tell you before you begin what your chances are, but it doesn't say what you rolled effectively. I guess it doesn't need to, but it's nice just seeing exactly how I messed up and how tight it could have been. You've got terrain effects such as a burning floor, as well as other environmental, like some kind of dread field across the battle, which makes everyone kind of fuck up from time to time. There's certainly a lot going for it, and you can really sharpen your tactical mind with this type of thing. There's a lot of variation you can do with your units as well. Take your heroes for example, which you can recruit at certain points of the campaign. They each gain levels like in an RPG, and you can give them various different equipment. You can go more focused for shooting or more melee. You can give them a mount like a giant bug or a dinosaur or a car, anything cool like that. As a commander, you can give them more of a focus on air combat or ground, it's up to you. There's various different mods you can give them to either boost certain abilities or give them a jetpack or a shotgun. And mods can also be applied to the rank and file guys. So you can take a basic unit, you can give them a mod which say boosts their damage potential or makes them hard to hit, and now you can start making more of those guys. Ultimately, the battles themselves I found the most appealing part of this game, but as I'm sure most of you know, I do like my Warhammer / other miniature wargaming, so that was to be expected. If nothing else, play for the battles. On for the second half of the gameplay, which is the overarching empire management sim. So this is all familiar to people who play things like Civilization or a Total War game or things of that nature. You have various colonies and they provide you with different things, so research, food for growth, general production, power. The more colonies you have, the better you do. But these colonies have to be defended, so you may want to invest some money into turrets and other defences. Or keep an army nearby just to lend a hand whenever the invaders come. Babysitting is crucial, and particularly since this is a very sci-fi-y theme, there's all kinds of weirdness going on. Take note also of their morale. Did you build a base on some lava? Well, turns out people don't like lava and tend to riot over that. Lots of buildings to make, although you don't really see them, you just know that a colony has them, which I guess is just the best way of going about it. Now, one of the first things that threw me when playing this game was how actually to expand. You see, you can build things called colonizers, which as you expect go to an area and colonize it, but you can't build one in a region adjacent to another of your colonies. You have to do one at least one in between. For some reason, I don't know why. It doesn't make it very clear, but those are the rules. Now what you can do for every region around one of your colonies is annex it, and it becomes part of it once you've reached a certain amount of growth. So applying this to all regions around your colonies, you can actually have quite a large footprint on the map, even if you don't have that many colonies directly, if that makes sense. It took me a while to get my head around that, particularly with the colonizer in the prologue mission, as I couldn't seem to get it to actually make a city, which is obviously what I wanted to do. Alongside managing your own empire, you also have to deal with your competitors who want the same thing, so diplomacy is very key to this. You can compliment people, you can say congratulations on your recent victory, or you can insult the shit out of them, whichever floats your boat. You can't just declare war willy-nilly though, you have to have reasons for it, such as trespassing. I know one dwarf guy really got upset when I was moving on his turf, and he went all nuclear on my ass. You've got various different forms of alliances you can craft with your opponents. This includes things like open borders, a general non-aggression pact, trade of some kind if you have a very good relationship. Again, I'd say there's some good depth here, but it's not the most in-depth you'll find in a game like this. I wouldn't say it's too simplified, but I would say if you've never really played a strategy game before, this would be a good one to wet your teeth on before moving on to the more advanced ones out there. Whilst you're playing a campaign in both the narrative and the non-narrative ones, you'll often find a neutral faction who isn't really looking to expand, but is happy to give you quests. And should you complete these quests, then you'll get rewards and yet more quests, so that is one thing to keep in mind and to keep pushing towards. In fact, you'll find two often in most maps, and they don't like each other and will often get annoyed when you help the other one do what they want to do. This led to a particularly hairy situation whilst I was playing as the Amazons, as both the psychic fish people and the living plant people both wanted me to help them but not help the other one, and both of them were getting really annoyed about me, which kind of led to war, which I find amusing that I was the one who united them against me. So yes, helping people does have consequences. On to graphics now, and Planetfall was not a game designed to be looked at very closely. If you do look at one of the main characters head on at the start of a campaign, yeah, this was not their intention. Kind of blocky, sort of PS2 era, not good. But to be honest with you, this is minimal. This is a game where you're looking far away from the sky often, although you do have a lot of control with the camera in the turn-based battles. This is not a game about portraits, it's a game about landscapes, and the colour schemes and sci-fi-ness of it all does do the job very well. You've got all kinds of vistas, from washed out nuclear wastelands to luminous mushroom jungles. You've got plains, you've got mountains, you've got deserts, you've got glaciers to fight on, and even better, you've got naval battle. This is kind of hilarious as you see all units effectively on little rowboats and they try to attack each other, but hey, you've got it and it works. I mean, can you name one other game where a pterodactyl gets to take on a submarine? Yeah, I thought so. So lots of varied colours, and it does keep it interesting. I'm about 20 plus hours so far into it, and already I'm still seeing some more things I haven't seen before, not to mention going underground and lots of other sci-fi light shows like laser towers and vats of goo of some kind. The units themselves are a little on the cartoony side, and I think some more detail could have been put on the mechs and larger vehicles. Some of the larger organic creatures do look good though. As for sound, and I do like the synthy futuristic soundtrack. There are a few great tracks when listening to this game, with my favourite being in one of the battle sequences, which I will let you listen to right now. Although one criticism of the sound though is that I wish when it came to battles, the units who were battling were a bit more responsive to what was going on. By that I mean, if some of the humans were like cheering if they got a good shot off, or lamenting when they died, I think would have added more to it. You know, in XCOM when a guy gets shot and he's like, I'm bleeding, or you know, he runs away and he's panicked, or something like that, or you know, woo, I shot an alien. I think more of that would have been beneficial. As it stands, battles are relatively quiet it does seem more like a game rather than an actual military simulation. And one unit for the bugs, which was the hacker bug, didn't seem to have any sound effects at all when they shot their weapon, so I think that is a bug there. The writing in this game though is often quite funny at times when it wants to be. For example, check out this backstory
Enemy
you can
down.
create for your character on screen right now. Pause if you need to. Whilst other times I've been ordered to go to various robot brothels and see if I can help out the bots working there. One neutral faction I came across were the Spacers, which was a combination of hillbillies and what I like to refer to as proper hardcore gamers with a Z at the end, who use words like pwn, OP and noob unironically. Basically, there's some levity to be found here, if you're looking for it, which is always a nice surprise. And yes, you can play this game online too, so you and a bunch of friends can have your own little planet you're waging war amongst, and look to see who is the best Napoleon slash Caesar slash Vader. Obviously though, with it being turn-based, particularly with moving your various armies across the map, you might need to find something to do during the downtime when it's not your turn. When it comes to negative things, there really isn't that much to say about the game. I mean, ultimately, if you're a fan of strategy, I think you'll like this, and if you're not, you may find it very tiresome and a little dull. I think it's best played maybe in campaign doses of 1 or 2 at a time, otherwise you may burn out, but as I said before, there is a lot to enjoy here. I personally am going to be playing a lot more after this review, and I would highly recommend that if you do like these types of games, then to give it a try. It's not perfect. When you kill guys, sometimes they clip through the ground. Some abilities, like making your opponent unit fall asleep for 2 turns, is a little overpowered for early game, and at times it can be very directionless. But ultimately, it's a lot of fun, and I would say play it. Age of Wonders Planetfall gets my score of 4 arm pumping robot goths out of 5. I did find myself staying until late night, just one more turn away from packing it up, and the feeling you get when you win a victory where you should have statistically been wiped out is better than, well, I'll leave that to your imagination. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. I will be back shortly with something which I haven't decided on yet. It could either be the new Blair Witch game or Void Bastards, which I just want to make a video because it has the word bastards in its title, or it might just be Gears 5, who knows. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you do want to see more of my content, then please send me a sub, as I got quite a few reviews now for this year, and I plan to do plenty more for next year too.
Unit destroyed.
And I shall see you next time. Bye bye.